G'day Sarah, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. So, you are a book designer.
I am.
So, what began your passion of making these book covers?
It was kind of a long quest to get here because I didn't really see the path until much later. So I'll just tell you the story that I was telling you.
Yeah.
Just cut this bit out. So I started doing book covers for my portfolios for when I applied to agency jobs.
Yeah.
Just doing general graphic design work because that's just what I like to do and I love books. So it seemed easy for me to just be like, I know this book so well, I'm just going to do a cover for it, and I already had something in my head. And then recently, 6 months back, I quit my job at an agency that I actually really liked working at, and I travelled Southeast Asia with my partner, and it was only then that I clicked in some Vietnamese cafe that I want to do this book cover design thing as it's my passion and it's what I want to do, and what's, you might as well enjoy life. So that's how it all started. And so when I came back, I just put my all into this, and I've been growing a social media presence on my Instagram and my Facebook, and
we'll link that down below as well.
Thanks. And creating my website. So
And if I'm not mistaken, you brought a few covers along.
I did.
Yeah, see, this was the one that I saw on Facebook.
Yeah.
And immediately I just knew we had to interview you, so I let this guy know as soon as I saw him, and I was like, yeah, there's this chick Sarah, we gotta get her, and we gotta schedule an interview with this one. And I showed him your work, and he was like, yeah, we do.
I figured since this one started, I'll bring along so this is my Sweeney Todd cover, which I did as a passion project, because I'm heavily influenced by Tim Burton's movie adaptation.
Right.
I also love the darker shade of magic book covers, and so you can kind of see the influence there. I especially liked working on his hair. So
why is that?
It's just so fun and it's so goofy.
What about the book itself? Sweeney Todd, read that 10 times?
I actually haven't read it a lot, but I've seen the movie and I really want to see a live play of it, a live musical. But I'm waiting for one to come around to New Zealand.
True.
Yeah, that's that one. This is my the ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so it's 5 novels in one book.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and this is what started my love of science fiction writing, because I was always into the science fiction films and TV shows, but I wasn't really a reader of it until Douglas Adams got me onto it, and especially how he weaves comedy into science fiction as well, because that's a different type of...
There's a movie adaptation, right?
There is a movie adaptation.
And is it much different to the book, or...?
Yes. Well, it sort of mixes different novels together. I don't particularly like the movie.
Fair enough.
I didn't think it did the book justice, or the book's justice.
Well, that happens quite a lot with film adaptations.
Yeah, so that's a bit unfortunate, but it is enjoyable. I still think it's worth a watch, but it's not close to the books.
Right, fair enough.
I was very upset when Douglas Adams passed away.
Rest his soul.
Yeah.
And so this
is The Secret Library, the first of
and that's quite a new book, right?
It is a new book. My partner is JC Gilbert, so
awesome.
He commissioned me to do this work. But this is his debut novel. It came out 2 months ago. He's very quick at writing, and his second book has been released, which came out last week. So
Awesome.
that one's called The Secret Library: A Call of Koya.
You should have brought him along. We could have got a duo interview going.
Yeah, I can give you his details, and
Yeah.
you can arrange an interview with him if you want to.
Yeah, cool.
But,
And the books are available where?
the books
Yeah.
are available on Amazon and Book Depository,
All
so
right.
as Kindle or paperback.
Cool.
Yeah.
So where does all that inspiration for what you were saying something about needing to know the work in order to be able to visualize some sort of...
Yeah, well, I like to get across often it's mood for me of the book, like the tone of the book for me, or like a particular scene, and I really think about it, and that's what influences me to do the work as well as my passion for the
So
book itself.
if you see a scene in a movie and you just see this real picture perfect scene, you just automatically get that idea
Sometimes,
in your
and
head?
obviously sometimes things don't look the same in your
Yeah,
head.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
when
yeah.
you put them on on your tablet, on your computer, but yeah, often that's for the best, and I come up with something that I like
As you go
better than I
along,
did
yeah.
in my head to begin
True.
with. So that's always good.
And I think everyone can kind of relate to that in some way, especially creative artists. You get this idea in your head, and then it just kind of changes when you're sitting there actually working on that idea,
Yeah.
concept. Yeah.
Yeah, because with my book covers, I often get into what's called flow. So I've never had that so much as when I'm working on my my book cover designs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm like the happiest creatively that I have been in a while, because you're not constantly self-doubting yourself, and
Yeah, true.
yeah, so
Interesting, that concept flow.
yeah,
Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
not good at explaining things per se. Yeah, there's a Pearl Jam song about it. But,
What's the name of the song?
it's called Flow.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, so artists that relate to that song probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like I was just reading about a critique writing about the American Idiot musical
Oh, yeah.
based on Green Day's album and stuff. It's coming to New Zealand in October,
that
by
sounds
the way.
cool.
It'll be awesome. But in that, they were talking to Armstrong, the singer and the writer
Yeah.
of the musical, and that's all he's talking about. Three guys, we got together and we just got into the flow. And the whole musical and the whole album and our whole story about Green Day is this flow that existed between these three guys.
Yeah.
And so it sounds a very ethereal type.
It
Thing,
does,
but-
but
I think creators know what it is when we hear about it or when we experience it.
yeah.
True. So you were saying that you work at a few other places doing graphic design and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so what were some of the tasks that they had you do, like creating posters, etc., things like
Yeah,
that?
it's various things. So my last job, I did a lot of finished art and like Mac operation. So yeah, it was sort of shopper agency work. So
Right.
advertising a lot of products.
Okay.
So yeah, like it's quite a lot different because I guess the product itself is the book, and therefore like it's not really, it's kind of an advert in that it's the cover and it's the first thing you see.
Yeah,
But it's
sure.
a different approach because it's not trying to like just say like buy me. It's
Right.
like more about if the cover hooks you, then you pick it up. It's
True.
maybe
Yeah.
just cut that bit out.
No, that was great. I fully get what you're trying to say, and I'm sure everyone who watches will as well.
I think it's more, I like it more because it's kind of more purist than trying to get someone to buy something outright.
Right, yeah. Yeah, true.
But I don't know, there's a lot of reasons why I like it. So.
Yeah.
I mean, the aesthetic of the book cover is the attraction.
Yeah.
The advertising, the selling points, is the blurb.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I would say,
Yeah.
You know, which then tends to, and I think, and I really appreciate what you're talking about in terms of advertising, a book cover being almost an advertisement for the book.
Yeah.
But advertising really is about highlighting the good points. Whereas I think book covers do way more than that.
I think book covers, you know, they get people to pick up the book and the blurb gets people to stay. So to get people to read your blurb,
Make it good,
I think it's important to have a cover that you like or at least suits your book or your genre.
Right.
Yeah.
True. And with the whole process, do you like start with a sketch on a pad and paper? Or?
Oh, it varies. Often it's scribbles, either directly onto Photoshop, just using my tablet, or in a little notebook.
Nice.
Sometimes I just do little tiny thumbnails. I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna take that straight to the computer now. Like, it varies on the project, because sometimes I have more of an idea and sometimes I need a bit more time to play before I do the design.
Right. You're saying how you do it on your tablet.
Yes.
How does that work exactly? Like, is there is it Photoshop that you use, or just?
Yeah, I often use Photoshop and sometimes Illustrator, because I like to do my own illustrations sometimes, depending on the book.
True.
Yeah, so some coffee.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
How do you go about engaging with the publishing houses and the publishers? Do you...
It's kind of early days at the moment, but I believe that social media is sort of the future for businesses, especially freelancers.
For sure.
Like myself and entrepreneurial types. So yeah, I'm hoping that will bring me some traction from both indie authors and publishers. That's
Cool.
my tactic at the moment.
Well, I'm sure it'll work out for you, because these speak for themselves, really.
Thanks.
Yeah.
The work is the CV, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you see what you're going, okay, I like what you're doing there. You know, and I guess it's that same attraction for the reader towards the book.
And
you see the cover, you think, oh yeah, okay, I'll have a look at that. And then you go into it. That's how you...
Yeah, exactly. So I think like people can, when they look at my work on my Instagram grid, they can tell what my style is. Like, and I've got quite a few email inquiries because they like my style and they think that will suit their book. So obviously, it's not for every book, but I wouldn't want to change what I love about what I'm doing. So.
Yeah, true. And so, sorry if you don't want to answer this question, but how many clients have you had so far? Do you know?
It's hard to say, and I don't really want to say because
Fair enough.
They're all like ongoing inquiries at the moment.
Right.
Because people tend to want this stuff, like they are asking about stuff in Halloween, like, and because they want to do October releases for like dark stories.
True. So it goes back that far. Like it's only July and June now.
Any style or genre that you particularly relate to or
I
close
love
to?
fantasy. That's why a lot of my personal projects are fantasy or fantasy sci-fi or even fairy tale stories, and I like fairy tale retellings.
Cool.
I like moody books as well, like really moody books.
Moody books?
Yeah.
Elaborate on moody books.
Neil Gaiman.
Who's that?
Fantasy writer.
Okay. Well, what are some of the titles he's written?
Neverwhere. I've done a personal cover for that one.
I probably saw it.
The Ocean at the End of
Yeah.
the Lane. Good Omens. He worked on that with Terry Pratchett. I've read pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And, reread
Yeah.
many times.
So when you were, so obviously you've been reading these sorts of books since you were really, really young. So when you were young and looking at these books, did you ever think that in 15 years from then you would be doing what you're doing now?
I had no clue. Like most, or many young people, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and it's only recently that I clicked that I wanted to do this, because you get forced into making decisions, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was this your dream?
This is my dream. This is my ultimate dream.
Awesome.
So, yeah, never been happier.
Awesome.
What about your background to it? Did you do a fine arts degree? Have you
I have a
studied
bachelor's
graphic?
in design. Yeah, so I went to AUT and studied there for 3 years.
She's our rival.
Collaborator. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What about are you still in touch with many people from that program, from your class during that period?
Just a few. Yeah, I mean, I have quite a few of them on Facebook, but it's only really a couple of them that I
Are any of
see.
them doing the same sort of thing that you're doing, or?
I'm not sure. Not the ones that I see regularly.
Right.
They're working at agencies.
Okay, cool.
But this just fits my personality more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so obviously I am assuming that you're currently open to approaches.
Yeah, I'm open to freelance work. I take commissions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll definitely keep that one in mind. Well, we're writers, so yeah.
Cool.
And we know a bunch as well, so yeah, we might be able to get you some work.
What about
down
cover
in the
art
future.
for a record?
Possibly.
Possibly. So, hopes and aspirations, Sarah?
Well, I hope that I won't have to work part-time eventually. Because at the moment I am just seeing how things go, and so you can't work with data you don't have yet, so
Right.
True.
yeah.
Very true.
But I'm going to continue this no matter what, whether I have to work part-time somewhere and do this on a side project thing or whatever. Yeah.
And what
Sorry, I
about-
messed that up.
and what about the
You're
book?
good.
Are you the writer as well?
This book?
No, of any books.
No.
Are you a writer as well?
I'm not a writer currently. I do want to write, but I'm going to be one of those slow writers.
Yeah, and then you can make your own book covers
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
And sell them off. Yeah, no, that's a cool idea. So, do you have any more questions, or?
No,
No?
I think that's been really informative, Sarah, and a nice tone about the whole chat.
For sure. So yeah, before we come to a close, is there anything you want to plug? Your Instagram. What's your Instagram?
Sara Oliver Design, no spaces.
Cool. And
my
your
Instagram.
website?
SaraOliverDesign.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And also your partner's books.
Yeah,
Yes.
so his author name is JC Gilbert. So just look for the Secret Library series on Amazon.
Cool.